And welcome in to the CHGO Blackhawks podcast presented by PointsBet. Use promo code CHGO when you sign up to live your bet life. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe wherever you get podcasts, and leave a 5-star review. I am Mario Tirabassi. This is Greg Boysen and Jay Zawaski, and this is the brand new CHGO Blackhawks podcast on the CHGO Sports Network. Excited to be here, day one. New era of Blackhawks hockey, new era of sports media in Chicago. Really excited to be with these guys. A top-notch group that we've put together here, that the CHGO team has put together. Cannot say more great things about everything that we got going on here. It's been a great day seeing all the podcasts, all the new shows, Cubs, Sox, Bears. We got Bulls coming on later tonight. Great stuff. And I mean, I'm excited. You guys ready for the new era?
Yeah, this has been great. I don't think I've used the word surreal as much as I have in the last 2 days, but man, the energy that's been in this building the last 2 days, it's incredible. Never felt anything like it, and let's do it. Let's get this going.
Yeah, just walking around this building and feeling the energy from everybody here. Everybody's got huge grins on their face. Everybody's happy. Everybody's having fun. So you mentioned it. It's a cool time to start. Right, as the Blackhawks are rebuilding, we're building this thing here, and it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and a point Greg has made throughout this process, as we've kind of been building up to this point, getting to this first Blackhawks show, is that the Blackhawks are getting to a new level in the team's history now, a new era. They're beyond the 1-goal era now. It's the Kyle Davidson era, whatever we want to call that at some point, but maybe it's the Wunderkind area or something like that. But we're getting in here on the ground floor, and we're starting with a new Blackhawks team. This is a new Blackhawks podcast, a new network. It's a great way to kind of build things up, and I think the team we got assembled here is pretty top notch. Obviously, Jay, you're very well known in the Blackhawks world. So I mean, for people who are new,
it's more than famous.
For people who are new, Jay, I guess kind of give a little bit about yourself and what got you here.
Yeah, so I started my career at 670 The Score, 21 years there. I'm at WBBM News Radio now, but I was at The Score since 2001, and then the Hawks got good. And they kind of looked around and said, we haven't really had to talk about hockey since the inception of the station. Does anyone here know anything about the Hawks? And I raised my hand and then kind of became the hockey guy. Was on the air for all 3 Stanley Cup victories. Ended up writing a book a couple of years ago called The Big 50. It's been kind of a wild ride. And then the Madhouse podcast we launched 7 years ago. And now the listeners of that feed are now CHGO Blackhawks listeners. And we welcome them. Obviously welcome anybody new. And we should probably address the James Naveau situation, who is my partner for 7 years, one of my best friends in the world. Things happen in business, and the plan was for James to be part of things here, and it just didn't happen. Mm-hmm. It was not allowed to happen. There's, when big companies are involved, they get concerns and things like that. So he will not be part of this on a regular basis, which is really sad for me. I mean, super close friend and a guy who I sort of handpicked to say, hey, let's do this thing together 7 years ago. But James is always there. He's ever present talking about hockey, and make sure you keep supporting his work. And I'm sure we'll hear from him now and again.
Yeah, and I don't want to speak for Greg, but like we both were looking forward to working with James. So it's like you said, things happen. So going to be missing him, but we'll have to cross paths at some point.
Yeah,
down
for
the
sure.
Road. He'll continue his Hawks coverage that he's been doing, and he's been doing a great job. And
The other thing too is my amazing timing is I'm going to Florida for a while, so I'm here for launch day, which is awesome.
You're gonna miss 65 degrees this weekend. It's a big time in Chicago.
Well, it's going to be 85 in Florida, so
that's a good point.
I'll take that. So I'll be So I'll be back in a while.
Yeah,
I look forward to the tweet. Jay Zawaski, Florida man.
Florida
man. Yeah,
just me all sunburned, with like the look at that rookie move with the shades, like all
yeah.
It's me at the beach. No one wants that. It's not something anyone wants to see.
Yeah, well, yeah, Jay. I mean, you've been someone that's been a big voice in the Blackhawks world for a long time. Me and Greg are kind of coming up. Like Greg, earlier today, you put it a pretty good way that you're kind of getting your first call up to the big leagues, to put into a hockey term, getting the recall to the NHL coverage here. And I mean, you and I have kind of come up in the same realms, and now we're here. So I guess introduce yourselves to the CHGO audience.
Definitely feels like I know a lot of you guys probably know me from my AHL coverage with the Hockey Writers the last few years. Now I know what it's like to be one of those kids in the AHL. I'm not a kid, but I know what it's like to get that call like, hey, you're going up to the big time, because as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't get any bigger than sitting right here right now with you guys and being a part of this group. So I've got those like first game jitters, but you know what? We're over the boards. We're on the ice. Let's make it happen. And, for those of you who've never been pissed off by something on one of my takes on Twitter, welcome. I'm sure that'll happen again at some point. I'm the guy that will usually say something that goes, what in the crap is he talking about? But, I had some great years with the Hockey Writers. Before that, you may remember me from my days at Second City Hockey, taking that great site over from a great group of writers that had it before me. Very unconventional route. A lot of hard work, a lot of long hours, a lot of drives to Rockford and back, and the payoff is sitting in this very comfortable chair right now, and I couldn't be more thrilled. And to have two guys that I've considered friends and colleagues for a long time. I got mad respect for both of you guys, and to have you guys as a team here, this is a scoring line right here. This is top line as far as Blackhawks coverage in Chicago, and I'm ready to go.
I don't know about the speed though.
No, we're definitely we are clogging. You and I are clogging the neutral zone, and Mario's picking up the guys that get by us.
Yeah. I don't know how many.
We're the two big guys
stay back.
from the original Nintendo ice hockey. We're the two.
Well,
you
need two fats and a skinny, right?
That's what you need for the gray beards out there. We're the Nintendo.
Yeah, I can only turn left, so I got to play right wing and then just circle back.
Two fats and a skinny.
And come back around.
Works for me. Yeah, if you guys want to go into the corners, that's fine.
I can go in the corners. I don't know if I'm coming out of it.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah, well, yeah, and to echo Greg's, Greg's path mine's pretty similar. Not super traditional. Gone through a number of different sites covering the Blackhawks over the years. I had a cup of coffee with Second City back in the day. Worked with the Rink. Shout out to those guys for a number of years, and then was just recently with Bleacher Nation launching their Blackhawks coverage this past year. That was a great experience, but would not want to be anywhere but right here in these chairs with you guys, and starting this up with CHGO. It's an incredible opportunity, incredible team, and very excited to get into it. And like we said, Kyle Davidson era.
Here we go.
It officially started on Tuesday. It started kind of back in October, but officially on Tuesday, named the GM after the rigorous search to find the new Blackhawks general manager, and already today making some moves. So I mean, I'm intrigued at what young Kyle can do.
Yeah, I'm really encouraged by just how definitive and aggressive he's been. Even when he got the interim role, he started making some moves. Mm-hmm. Got Alex Nylander out for Sam Lafferty, obviously identifying that toughness is an issue. Mm-hmm. Today gets rid of 2 longtime scouts, which was probably a little bit overdue, right?
Right.
So if you're going to rebuild this thing on the ice, you've got to do it off the ice too. And, as we were doing our kind of rehearsal show last night, we talked about how, from the press conference on, he was not mushmouthing it. He was saying, we're rebuilding. Mm-hmm. This is a rebuild. And Bowman would never go that far. He would say, "Oh, we feel like we can do these things on the fly." And even 2 years ago, we're going to have young guys. We're going to supplement with veterans. Davidson's saying this is a rebuild, and it might take up to 5 years. But I said, if they're legitimate cup contenders in 5 years, then he's done his job.
Mm-hmm. And the biggest thing is one of the biggest things that the team, the organization has been doing in the last couple of months has been hammering home transparency. Mm-hmm. It's not something we got with the last regime, obviously. But
they tried that one summer. Remember when Sam Bowman did the media tour?
Yes.
He just talked to everybody.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
Probably the worst summer of his life.
But yeah, the ability to come out and say, this is going to be a rebuild. It's going to be 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, whatever it needs to be a legitimate contender. I think that's something that to bring in fans that may have been pushed away in the last couple of months, last few years, that's what you got to do. You got to be able to bring in those fans and say, hey, here's our plan. Come along with us. Like, I think that's one of the biggest things that this new front office, as they assemble it, that's one of their biggest goals is to keep the fans engaged.
Well, I think the benefit of transparency is there's no surprises. He mentioned that too with Taves and Kane, which I'm sure we'll get to, is they don't want to surprise those guys with what's going on either. But just anecdotally, going through my timeline, I didn't see anyone mad about a rebuild. No one's saying, I will not tolerate a rebuild. Most people say, it's about damn time.
Right.
It's so overdue, and fans get it. And I think when you look at the landscape of the rest of Chicago sports, you've got the Cubs who proved rebuilding from scratch works. The White Sox, similar, they haven't won a World Series, but they've got as good a chance as any young team in the league, right? Yeah. They're a contender, so it might work for them too. Even the Bulls to some extent, and
the Bulls had to go through a ton of changes.
Yeah, so fans have seen okay, patience in a rebuild can pay off. Anyone who's watched the Hawks over the last few years knows it's well overdue. So I'm very pleased by the reaction I've seen from fans because they seem to get it. They seem to really understand what this team needs, and it's not just filling in veterans here and there. That's not going to help.
Yeah, we got the benefit of really smart fans here in Chicago.
Yeah.
And they know when they're being lied to, and they don't tolerate when they're being lied to. So, I think fans the last 3-4 years have known, come on, this isn't working, this isn't going anywhere. Why are we trying to pretend that we're just a goaltender and a defenseman away from contending? Stop putting the lipstick on the pig and let's do this.
Yeah.
So as long as you're honest and upfront with the fan base will stick through it and get that payoff at the end. There's a lot to be said about getting in early, getting in on the ground floor, as we've talked about, but that process of learning about these young players from draft day and watching their maturity through juniors, through the AHL, then they get to the NHL, and then you get that payoff of them being the player you've been hoping for. Man, nothing beat that feeling, that 2010 Cup. I know I can speak for you. We're Cub fans. Man, that 2016, nothing beat that because you invested so much time, so much energy and effort, and then the payoff. So fans will buy in as long as you tell them what they're buying into and you don't jerk them around. The diehards aren't going anywhere.
Well, I always think back to, and Mario, I don't know if you're a Sox or a Cubs fan or baseball fan at all.
I like baseball when it's convenient. I like opening day, and I like 4th of July. That's baseball. And then when it's October, if it's good baseball, I'll watch it.
Yeah, I just think back to when the Cubs were rebuilding and Chris Bryant was in the minors of the fall league, and every now and again you'd see a cell phone video of Chris Bryant hitting a home run, and it was like, oh, that's coming, that's on the way, and then he pans out, and then there's the Rizzo that whole buildup. You do invest, and you feel part of it. And I think, the Hawks bandwagon grew from the 2010s, but there's a lot of people that are Hawks fans for life because of that. Right. So they're going to fully witness a full rebuild, and hopefully Kyle Davidson does things correctly and gets them back to contention. You've got some nice young pieces. I don't know if you have any superstar types. I guess DeBrincat would probably be the closest thing.
Right. But I mean, even he's now, 24?
Yeah.
Not to say that that's old.
It's not old
at all.
But he's 29 when you're ready to win again.
Right, exactly. So it's like, you have him as a cornerstone to build around. But, it's not, he's not the 20-year-old coming up. He's already here. He's arrived as, one of the legit stars of this team. He's 24 years old. He's, like you said, he's going to be reaching 30 almost when you're considering that timeline. That's when they're going to be contending. So it's like you have to get a lot of those, top stars, those top prospects into the organization, which they really don't have right now outside of basically Lucas Reichel.
Yeah, and who knows what he projects to be, because even when he was drafted, that at that time it felt like an overdraft, right? Mm-hmm. It was another Sam Bowman, like, this is probably 6 or 7 spots too soon for that guy. Kirby Dach was ish. I don't know if anyone really saw him as the third prospect. You know, he was around there.
Yeah,
but
that draft class was really interesting because after Jack Hughes and Capo Caco, it was, it was open game.
Take your
on
pick,
anybody,
right?
Basically. With Kirby Dach, it was a little bit of a surprise, but I mean, like I said, like 3 through 9 was like roll the dice. You can get anybody that's probably going to be good for that spot.
Well, so you kind of brought it there, as we're talking about rebuilding and bringing in prospects and picks and the things you need to do that. There's going to be some tough things that Kyle Davidson is going to have to do, some really difficult emotional moves to make, and I think we're very focused on Kane and Taves, but you're right. Alex DeBrincat will be 28, 29 when they're ready to win. Is that the guy who's going to bring you the most return right now? You've got to consider these things, and as painful as it would be as a Hawks fan to see that guy go score 50 somewhere else, which I think is very likely.
Yeah, it could be possible.
You got to think about that. And I don't know. I'm glad I'm not the GM because I'm not ready to make that call yet on whether or not you should trade DeBrincat. But there's not a person on the roster I'm not at least taking a call on.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Everybody, you need to listen, answer every phone call and listen. This is one of the debates I've had for 2-3 weeks on Twitter now. The idea that anybody on this franchise is untouchable. No, you don't want to trade an Alex DeBrincat, but if someone's going to give you the farm, you got to at least listen.
Right.
And this franchise needs assets. It needs draft picks. It needs prospects, good prospects, not maybe bottom 9 player prospects. You need dynamic talent and in a hurry. And if he's the guy that gets you, you have to consider it. One of the arguments I've had for the past couple of weeks is I don't understand the mentality that Brendan Hagel is untouchable. You can't trade him for anything. I'm not saying trade Brendan Hagel. I like him,
to do it, right?
But I mean, if there's a write-off, if someone's willing to give you a first-round pick and a prospect for him, you should probably take that.
I would think so.
I love Brendan Hagel. He's a great kid, great player. I know he's the type of player that Chicago Blackhawks fans love the most.
Right.
Can we aim higher than Brendan Hagel? Right. I mean, no offense, but let's shoot a little higher.
Our first CHGO shirt should be like just a long qualifier about Brandon Hagel. Obviously, we love Brandon Hagel, but he's a really good player and brings a lot of team. However, it is a rebuild and then turn around.
Yeah.
You need to consider trading. No one is untouchable. I think, and we could just, before every show, we just stand in front of the camera and turn around. And then, okay.
And that's a good segue. Remind everybody that they can get a free shirt when they sign up to be a member here at CHGO Chicago. Get yourself a free shirt. Get yourself that awesome logo you're seeing right there. You can get that on a great T-shirt. Wear it around the city, and people can yell at you like, oh, that's the guy that wants to trade Brendan Hagel. But whatever reaction you get, you're getting a reaction.
Screw those guys.
Yeah.
Perfect segue. So that shirt would probably cost twice as much for all the
right.
You may have to
limited edition. That's what it'll be. Yeah, I mean, with Hagel, it's, he has the time ahead of him to grow into, his ceiling, but it's like, is that ceiling the second line wing player who's versatile? That's great, but that's not a guy who you ride to a Stanley Cup. That's a guy who is a complementary piece. And the Blackhawks are not in a position to be holding on to dear life for complementary pieces.
A game I like to play is, where would this guy play on the 2010 or 2013 Blackhawks? What would be Brandon Hagel's role on that team? Is he Bickle?
He'd be
Is he Versteeg?
He'd be a better Adam Bursch.
I'd slot him a little bit higher than that. I mean, I think
he'd be Chris Versteeg.
Yeah, I think he'd be 2015 Versteeg.
And what is the ceiling for Hagel too? Like, how much more growth does Brandon Hagel have in his game? And maybe he's got some. Maybe he'd be. Let's play a game here. Is he a 50-point guy at any point in his career?
Maybe. I mean,
I feel
but
like
that's
that's maxing out for him, I think.
right, because he's flirting with a 50-point pace this year.
Right.
So I think when he's playing on a team in a more prominent role on a bad team, he gets the opportunities to put up points. If you put him with a team that's going to be contending, that has probably some more top-end talent than he provides, then, yeah, his ice time decreases and his production decreases. So,
if he's playing Versteeg minutes.
Exactly. Yeah, if he's not playing 18 minutes a night, if he's playing 15 and a half, 14, whatever it is, he's not going to reach 50.
But again, we love Brandon Hagel.
Full disclosure, we all love Brandon Hagel.
Just want him to go. I cannot be more clear about this. But you have to listen on everybody.
Everybody, yeah.
Everybody.
There's and that, includes Jonathan Toews and Patrick Kane.
Yep.
And their futures are as uncertain as I think they've ever been with this team. And they're both under contract through next season. On July 13th, they're eligible for contract extensions. And every day that goes by after July 13th that they don't have an extension, the questions are going to be constant, and they're going to be heavy to Toews, to Kane, to Davidson, to whoever's the head coach at that time. It's going to be what's happening with these two guys? What's their future? What's the plan for them? And like Davidson said, there's going to be no surprises for them. And both of these guys both want to play their entire careers in Chicago. But at what point does the scale tip to we need to look at this more as a business than as,
Did you ever get the feeling that Toews might just retire after this contract?
Should.
I think with his health and another concussion that he's just came off with last night's game. I mean, you got to start thinking, how many games does he have left? Not seasons, not years. How many games does he have?
And
left?
he sort of said it. Was it before the game yesterday, where he was saying, "I got to get my body's got to catch up," and he just hasn't really found that pace. And you've seen a gradual incline to his game. He starts looking like Jonathan Toews a little bit, and there's those flashes here and there, but he's just, I don't know if he'll ever be that guy again. And like you said, when you look at the concussion history and whatever else he's going through, I don't know if he even had, and to say this about Jonathan Toews, who's one of the most motivated hockey players I've ever seen, does he have the motivation to sign with another team, sign another deal with his body, worry about concussions? There's nothing more for him to accomplish.
No.
Right? 3 cups, everything he's accomplished. I don't know. I just don't know how much he values. I mean, obviously he values his health. He took a whole year off last year to address it.
Yeah.
But does he want to keep going? I wonder. I think Kane's got probably 3 or 4 years left of still really good hockey. Mm-hmm. And that's the kind of guy you can keep around for a while on a contender, and he'll be a contributor. I don't know. I don't know if I see Toews sign another deal in his career. I don't know.
It's a difficult situation to navigate, and that's going to be for Kyle Davidson to kind of figure out. We got a question here from Matt. What are you guys going to get for Toews? I'm sorry, I do not have good vision to see that. What are you going to get for Toews? I mean,
I don't know.
It depends on when you try to deal him. Because if you deal him on his current contract, he's not a $10 million player whatsoever.
No, that's tough.
There will have to be some serious salary retention.
So you're retaining salary, or you're taking back bad money.
Right.
Or you're looking at a deal at next year's deadline when a lot of that contract is gone, and then can you take, like, at the deadline ahead of a free agent deal? I should look into this. Can you take salary back for just what remains of the year? I think so, right?
You could take up to 50%.
Yeah, 50%, yeah.
Yeah, so if 50% of what remains,
50%,
that's not a hard pill for teams to swallow.
$3.5 million or whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah, in actual dollars.
Yeah, right. I mean, obviously
not fake salary cap money.
His trade value is not what it would have been, even 2 years ago. Kane's obviously the guy that would bring in a heck of a lot more if you're going to go down that route. So, yeah, that is a good question. What would you get for Toews? My advice would be have very low expectations of a return for 19. It's just a shame when you think about everything he's accomplished and what he means to this franchise, but that's the reality of the situation right now.
Right, and what, a team that's going to be acquiring Jonathan Toews, they're not acquiring him to be, the Jonathan Toews that he's been in Chicago, where he's the captain, he's the face of the front. You're likely going to be operating with a team that's going to take him in to be a role player at this point in his career. And so, you're not shoveling out top prospects, top picks for guys who will essentially be playing role player,
Yeah,
position.
he's at this point he's a face-off winner, a two-way forward. He's
Probably.
Antoine Vermette.
Yeah, probably plays on your
Right.
penalty kill.
Yeah,
And
and
oh yeah,
super
chat from Jake.
I know that guy.
What are your? Can you read it, please? Oh my gosh.
Well, the hat trick was fun.
Yeah,
I know it's recent, but
I mean that's probably the
That was
best.
pretty good.
That's probably the best moment.
That's a good
so
one.
far.
Yeah.
I do think back to when he flattened Patrick Laine. That was
fun.
That was pretty nice. Not that I totally love, people pummeling each other in the head.
Yeah.
I know that's sacrilegious with hockey with the purists, but yeah, that fight was, he's a rookie, he's taking on a big star in Patrick Laine, and on home ice drops him, gets the crowd going. Like that was the time that Brandon Hagel really like established himself with like, hey, I'm here to stay here for a while.
I think that's the moment when a lot of Blackhawk fans fell in love with him.
Yeah.
That's, we got an Andrew Shaw bobblehead right here, but, those are the guys that traditionally the 300 level fans love. They love that grindy, I'll score a goal, but I'd rather punch you in the face kind of guy. And
Yeah.
I think that was the moment that the majority of the fan base said, okay, yeah, we can keep this guy. Let's not trade him for anything.
well, it's Chicago fans in general relate to hard-nosed players in every sport. But what's a city, by the way, that doesn't?
That
Like,
doesn't?
Nah, like we don't like players like that. We're from this city. We like dainty guys.
Vegas.
We like redeemed Verbata types that play on the edge and don't take hits.
Vegas.
I
But
mean,
you know,
LA?
but hey, you're right. And to me, it's hard. It's not really a moment, but it's realizing, oh, this is not just another guy of the James. I call it the fourth line farm, where you just pull a guy out, and there's
Right,
Tanner
yeah.
Caro, and there's this and that guy. When you realize Hagel was more than that, and it was kind of like it took all season. Like, well, that's not real. I'm still not sure. Last year, and then he comes in this year and just picks up right where he left off, and now they're getting offers for first rounders and a
First round
prospect.
plus, yeah.
If a year and a half ago you asked me that, I'd laugh in your face.
Right.
Like, oh yeah, they're gonna get this offer and say no.
Yeah.
Like what?
And be thinking twice about it.
yeah, right.
Pretty insane progressive considering, 2 years ago he was down in Rockford and not even top line player there.
Right.
Now he's
Well, and who's kicking themselves are the Sabres. They picked him in the 6th round and then didn't sign him.
Yeah.
And now here he is, playing prominent minutes with the Blackhawks, making a name for himself, and
that's
garnering first round picks.
our revenge for the Alex Nylander trade. Take that, Sabres.
Sure. Yeah.
It's the least you could do.
Yeah. Or even.
But the similarities to Shaw too are striking to me, and they always have been, because I'm trying to remember, Shaw got called up the same game as another prospect. Was it maybe Ryan Stanton? Like a decent level defensive prospect, and that was the story that night. And it's like, Shaw's kind of a fourth line grindy guy, and came in and immediately stole people's hearts and never went back down again. Hagel, because Hagel didn't play the first game of last year.
No.
He was a healthy scratch and came in and just never let go of that job. The similarities between those two they happen a lot.
Yeah.
And I love the way both guys play. And again, we're not.
The disclaimer.
We love him.
Yeah.
Put the disclaimer out there. But yeah, it's his ascent has been cool. And whoever the scout was that discovered him, don't fire that guy.
Yeah. Leave them
Clone
on the,
him.
On the
Yeah,
paper.
right.
One of those guys.
Yeah.
For sure. I think, and that's kind of where the Blackhawks are at right now, is that you're going to get guys like Brandon Hagel who are going to come up through the system and kind of make a name for themselves. And those are the guys you got to be excited for.
Right.
Because you're getting to a trade deadline where, Marc-Andre Fleury is on the block. Dylan Strom is on the block. Dominic Kubalik is on the block. Calvin DeHaan. Anyone not nailed down to the floor is on the trade block, and they have 2.5 weeks to figure it out.
Yeah.
So it's a time where you're gonna see a lot of change in the next 2 weeks with this roster, and you're gonna see a lot of new faces, young faces, hopefully, that are going to be filling those roster spots for the final month and a half of the season. And it's going to be like, okay, wins and losses don't matter now. What is the development of player XYZ in these last few games? What are we seeing out of these young guys? And I think, there's not too many stars that are going to be coming up, but these are guys that are going to be coming through that like, hey, these might be some complementary players that will be here in a few years that will be part of these successful teams. So I think that's an exciting aspect that the team has right now.
Well, that's one of the things I'm looking forward to after the deadline. If, I think we all expect Calvin DeHaan will go, right? And maybe a couple, I don't know what the deal is with Jake McCabe. I like him. He does his job, but I don't know what he provides for this team in particular. Right. He's probably way more valuable to most other teams in the league. Maybe you can get something back for him.
But I think the problem with McCabe is his contract and his output this season. This has not been one of his good seasons.
No, it's been tough.
And he's on a $4 million contract with 3 more seasons after this year.
But when they signed him, that was considered a really good deal.
Yeah,
like no one thought the Hawks overpaid, and that's a rarity.
Right, and he was coming off an injury, but prior to being injured, he had a short sample size with Buffalo that was like, hey, he's playing one of his best defensive years of his career, and then he has a knee injury. So yeah, it was thought of, at least I thought for sure. I was like, wow, we got Jake McCabe for a considerable contract. Like that's going to be pretty good. Pairing him with Connor Murphy, that's a shutdown line, and it's been anything but this year.
Right. Well, I want to see though these guys that get called up, like Isaac Phillips and Regula and Kalynek's got to come back up, and you got to figure out what you have and what you have already, right? The guys who are in the organization, who of these are NHL players? And I'm not convinced any of them are. I'm also not convinced any of them are not. I just don't know yet.
Right.
And I think Kalynek's a good example of a guy who we all penciled in the top 6 this year, and he's barely had a sniff. But then Isaac Phillips comes out of nowhere. And there's a lot of guys who have like, oh, okay, he's a little better than I thought.
Yeah, they got some really good defense. They got a whole bunch of NHL caliber defensemen in Rockford.
Right.
I've been able to watch a lot of them the last 2 seasons. Phillips, he did come out of nowhere, and I love this kid. I think he's going to be a solid player. He's going to be a fan favorite. He's just a likable kid, but then he has no problem, doing the dirty work. This was a kid that was supposed to play juniors last year, but then because of the pandemic, got to play in the AHL and got an entry-level contract like 3 weeks later. So you mentioned Kalynek. You still got Ian Mitchell, who's been really good on the power play in Rockford.
Galvis, Bodin.
Yeah, everybody forgets about Bodin. He's a first-round pick, and they're taking their time with him. I don't want to say he's fallen out of favor, but they got some solid guys down there. So yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. This is the time. If you trade a DeHaan, you trade a McCabe, you create opportunity for these guys, and let's start rotating them in, and not for one game. Let the guy, if he plays good, let him go until he needs a break. Now is the time to find out. These last 27 games, 28 games. It's time to let there's a lot of guys that, and on the Rockford Ice Hogs roster that are maybe NHL guys, maybe not. This is the time to find out where you got, and then you can reevaluate this summer and figure out if they're the guys you're going to keep around for this or you're going to look elsewhere.
Well, I know we're going to get into the Duncan Keith extravaganza last night, but it leads me to a guy who I find like not a lot of people talk about, Caleb Jones, who's seen his ice time go up, who's had good moments and bad moments. What do you guys make of him? I still, despite how much he's played, I'm not really sure what I've determined about his game yet. You can see the skill set there, but the consistency's been an issue, but he's young. I don't know, where are you guys at on Jones in terms of Caleb Jones, in terms as a future piece?
I'm kind of in the same boat. Like, I like what I see some nights, and then some nights I'm like, but that's a young defenseman.
Yep.
that's what you're going to get out of a young defenseman on a nightly basis is inconsistency. But when he is at the top of his game, he's definitely, at the very least, a quality third pairing defenseman. Mm-hmm. He's not a superstar by any means, but, if you go by what, Blackhawks Twitter says, he's terrible and shouldn't play. But
same with Seth.
Right, exactly.
If you go by Blackhawks Twitter.
Right. Anybody named Jones, get him out of here. But, no, I think that's definitely a guy that you need to give extended look to, and this is his time to show if he's got it or not. Because right now, wins and losses, as you said, wins and losses don't matter from here on out. Now is your time to prove you deserve to be in the NHL, and just let him go with it. Give him the big minutes. Give him an expanded role. Who cares what the end result is? We need to see that development. I think he could be a guy moving forward. Be in the lineup.
Seems like the more he plays, the better he plays.
Absolutely.
I think the in and out of the lineup thing was not great for him. And another name you mentioned, Dylan Strom, kind of the same deal. When you give them consistent games,
you got to play them in the right situations.
Yeah.
That too.
Putting players in positions to succeed. It's crazy how that works out sometimes.
Weird, right?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Well, yeah. I mean, Caleb Jones, he's a restricted free agent this summer. He's cheap. He's 24 years old. I mean, I don't see the harm in giving him an extended look. But I think, I don't know. I think we've kind of seen he's played over 100 games in the NHL now. He's been with Edmonton. He's here in Chicago. He hasn't really solidified himself in a position here in Chicago. I don't know. I'm more inclined to give a guy like Jakub Galvis more ice time, more of a look. Alec Regula, giving him more of a look. Getting Ian Mitchell back up here. He's been doing really good in the minors this year now that he hasn't been, thrust into a top four role right out of college. Taking his time in development, he's become a little bit more of a well-rounded player, and we're seeing it with what he's been doing in the minors this year. I'm more inclined to give him some more ice time. I mean, the Caleb Jones thing, it was great to get him as an extra piece in the Duncan Keith trade. But I don't know. I don't see too much more of him with Chicago beyond this year. But again, he's cheap. It's, he's young. It can't hurt, but I'm more inclined to give some of these prospects more of a look than them.
Chad has a good question for you here.
Yeah.
This is Nate. He's talking about, we're talking about rebuilding, always focus on the players. But how do you see the coaching staff shaking out under the Kyle Davidson rebuild?
That's a
He
good
also
question.
mentioned the ghost of Alpha Simone.
There we go.
Phew, I just got the chills. I think when Derek King first got hired, I didn't think he was a long-term answer. But now that the direction has changed, I think he's a perfect coach for this type of situation. He's going to be affordable. I mean, that's obviously anything that goes into these things. But he knows these young guys. He's been working with them in Rockford for 3 seasons. He's really good at working and developing young players. Look at all the guys in the last 2 seasons that have played for him in Rockford that have come up and produced in Chicago. Hagel played under him, Entwistle. A lot of these young defensemen have played so there's some familiarity there. And, this team isn't ready to compete. So why go out and get the primetime coach? Why go out and get a Tortorella or a Mike Babcock? I'm not saying we ever should get any of those 2 guys, but those are just the names that pop in my head. Now's not the time for that.
Yeah.
I think King is a good guy to bring on. Keep him around for a couple more years and see what happens.
He's Ricky Renteria.
Absolutely.
For whichever team you want.
he's hockey Renteria.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean he's the placeholder. I think for a team that's going to be rebuilding, for a team that's going to be young. You get a guy who's in there who's had some experience. A number of years coaching in the minors. Now he's had some time in the NHL with the Blackhawks. He had a long NHL career as well. Someone that's respected, someone that's a player's coach. I think that's probably the kind of guy you need for this period of time. And yeah, he's not the guy to lead the team to championships. I don't see that.
Well, I mean, even when you look at Blackhawks history, had Joel Quenneville been the coach when Keith and Seabrook and those guys were rookies and starting to make their bones in the league, like, that's the hired gun. That's the guy you bring in to put it over the finish line. So Savard and Trent Yawney were good for those guys coming up.
Right.
And I think, maybe 2 months ago, I wouldn't have stumped for Derek King, but I think It's just an easy move to make. He's a likable guy. You mentioned putting guys in the right position to win, even though you don't have guys that really help you win right now. There's nothing I've seen Derek King do where I'm like, ooh, that was
right.
Whereas we saw it 3-4 times a night with Colleton. With Derek King, it's just been
consistently
he's
questioning
been just
it.
a normal coach.
He keeps things simple.
Yeah.
And when you're dealing with young players, you got to keep it simple. I think he's the perfect coach for what's coming.
Yeah.
And then 3-4 years from now, you revisit it and see where you're at. And maybe he progresses as a coach as well as all these young players progress. Let them do it together and see where we're at.
And you also, give a little bit of time to see how other coaches pan out. Like you might see a coach in 3 years that's available. That's like, oh, this guy's, had a lot of success and for whatever reason fell out with XYZ team, whatever. And it might be like, okay, now let's go after this guy, who like a Quenneville. He comes in and is like, oh, this is the coach to put into this team now that we're ready to go now.
And then players also, when that happens, be it Joe Madden or whoever, right, or Q at the time, that fires the players up now. They're like, okay, this organization is recognizing that we have something special and that we need more from a coach. And look, when Dennis Farr was fired, nobody was happy, right? Everybody loves Dennis Farr. He's like the greatest guy in the world. Patrick Kane was in tears, but I think all those guys knew this signals something different. And everyone else is seeing what we feel about ourselves. And for them to bring in Quenneville at that point, that's a huge motivator. And that guy, that's instant credibility. The guys believe before he even walks into the room. That's huge. But you don't need that kind of a coach right now. When it comes time to compete, then you evaluate. And look, maybe Derek King grows into that. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm in no rush to eliminate him from contention or consideration. I think it makes all the sense in the world to keep him around. Now, maybe there's someone that Kyle Davidson has in his mind who is like, this is the perfect developer of young players, and we don't know who that is yet. And I'm open-minded to that too. But I said, if it was a couple months ago, I probably would have dismissed the Derek King thing. But now that we know from the GM's mouth, this is a rebuild, let him do it.
Yeah.
Give him his chance. Why not?
It's not gonna make anything worse.
No. Yeah, exactly.
Follow up. What do we got here? What about the Lawrence? You're killing me here.
I think if you bring him back next year and you give him a 2-3 year contract, obviously I think you let him bring in some assistants that he wants. He's kind of been like, all right, you're taking over for Colleton, and these are your guys. Mirror image to what happened when he got the gig in Rockford, taking over for Colleton again. So yeah, I think you definitely give him but it could be a something he works in conjunction with Davidson. You want to focus on bringing in guys. Do you need a Mark Crawford right now for young players? Probably not.
Yeah. As much as he seems changed from what he was in Colorado and the red ass that he's been in the past, he seems like a genuinely different kind of a guy. But you're right. Like Mark Crawford probably also doesn't want to sit around for rebuild as an assistant coach either.
He was brought in to be like the former head coach to help Colleton along.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I definitely do think that King, if he's back, gets an extension and gets to be no longer interim head coach, just head coach. Absolutely, he should have the opportunity to pick his own staff, or at least work with Davidson to get the right staff for this situation.
Because and I don't see Crawford wanting to stick around for a rebuild, and I don't also see Rob Cookson being any reason to stick around either. He was buddies with Crawford. If he's not there, what's the purpose of him being there either?
I mean, if Crawford wants to stick around, I'm not forcing him out the door by any means.
That's up to him. Yeah.
It would surprise me if he has that desire to stick around and just oversee a rebuild.
Right.
The reason he's assisting is to eventually get another head coaching job. Whether or not that comes remains to be seen. But the fact that they just didn't give it to him when they fired Colleton, it's
a little bit of an indication.
That got my attention a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, like we said at the beginning of the podcast, we are brought to you by PointsBet. And wanted to let you guys know the best way to support CHGO is to download the PointsBet app and use the code CHGO when you sign up. PointsBet is your home for live in-game betting, and they are most excited for PointsBet's new exclusive feature, Live NBA Same Game Parlay. For the first time ever, you can build the perfect live same game parlay only with PointsBet. Combine your favorite bets anytime during the game. You can also boost your live same game parlays. Watch live, parlay live, and boost live with PointsBet. And also, starting tomorrow, online signup is available in Illinois. You can now download the PointsBet app today. Register your account from start to finish, all from your phone. Signing up with the fastest sportsbook is now easier than ever. You can start living your bet life in seconds. Remember, use the promo code CHGO, and you get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000. Once the game starts, don't just bet. Live your bet life with PointsBet. Gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700.
That was flawless.
Thank you.
All right, that's your department.
Thank you. Great.
Mario, aka Reed Guy.
Great. I'm happy to have a thing here with the podcast now.
Right.
Yeah.
You'll get all the endorsements down the road. It's all good.
Hey,
it's perfect time for that. 2 Blackhawk games this weekend. Lots of chances to throw some money. Can the Hawks actually win in Philadelphia? That's what's the odds on that?
Hey, I mean, they got a win last night over the Oilers. I mean, it was kind of one of those weird games that you're playing a team with 2 of the best players in the league on it, and you're playing on the night you're honoring Nicholas Hjalmarsson. Duncan Keith's back in the building. It was one of those games that was just like, in a season where wins and losses, you're at a point where they don't matter.
Yeah.
That's a game last night that you're like, I'm checking this out. I'm getting into it, and the action on the ice, it lived up to the billing of the atmosphere in the crowd.
The atmosphere was great. The crowd was really into it. Mm-hmm. And I think, having 2 franchise legends return on the same night is part of it. But you're right. Like, that was one of those games in a season of not so great games that was entertaining start to finish. McDavid and Draisaitl, every shift seemingly have a oh my God moment. Mm-hmm. That Draisaitl goal was insane, and there were just so many moments where McDavid setting up passes, and that guy is unbelievable. I remember the series 2 years ago, the COVID playoffs. Every time McDavid was on the ice, it was just terror.
Yeah.
Like, what's he going to do? He's going to score 3 goals in one shot somehow. I don't know. It's just,
There's one guy to do it. He'd be able to figure it out.
It's just unlevel. If only he had a personality of any kind. Of just a little something.
Show a little bit.
Speaking of betting, didn't he get the big endorsement deal?
Yeah, he's got a new endorsement deal now. So that's
first active player to get a gambling endorsement. Connor McDavid. Yeah.
I mean,
you guys should bet on games and stuff.
Yeah, it's gonna be.
He's
He's getting me to throw all my money at the other.
Yeah, right.
For sure.
Well, and it's funny. I said to Greg when we saw that news, I was like, if there's any player that you could tell if they were trying to, tank results, it would be him. Because if he's not going full bore and putting up more than a point per game, you're gonna have some.
Yeah, he's
some
got
questions.
money on the other team.
Yeah.
Somewhere Pete Rose is yelling at a TV and no one's responding to him. Hey, what about me? This is what I did.
It's been that way for years, though.
Yeah.
Interesting move by the league for sure.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, seeing McDavid, doing his thing, seeing Draisaitl, but seeing the Blackhawks pull out a win in overtime. It probably shouldn't have got to overtime, but it did.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Blackhawks.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, it's that game, that kind of game with the excitement where it's just like, all right, like, every once in a while when you have a team that's playing like this, that's about to go into full blown rebuild mode, the fans need a bone every once in a while, and that's the kind of game that you get. And last night, one of the goal scorers was Dominik Kubalik. He got a bone thrown to him from Mikko Koskinen. So
more like a pizza.
Yeah, sometimes that's what you need.
I was happy to see it because I've been taking a beating all season long because I was the dope that picked Dominik Kubalik to lead the team in goals at the end of the season. So, good thing their PointsBet app wasn't available for that one.
Yeah, it wasn't. At the time though, it wasn't that.
No.
See, this is the thing: is before the season, we're all sort of talking about like, well, if this happens and this happens and this happens and this happens and this happens, then maybe. And then they started 9-3 or whatever.
1-9-2.
1-9-2.
That was dashed quickly.
That number sequence is going to be burned in my brain. 1-9-2.
Yeah. So, but anyway, seeing Keith back was real cool, and Hjalmarsson just looking like a European spy, man. Just short with the
He looked like a Bond villain.
yeah, he really did.
I thought he
and
was coming out to do a DJ set.
yeah, but then his speech was funny and self-deprecating, and he was shouting out current Hawks and making fun of old Hawks, and
Yeah.
it's funny. You just think back to those teams, and I don't know if we recognized in real time how freaking stacked.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God, Nicholas Hjalmarsson. I'm trying to remember which of the stat dudes on Twitter was like, might have been Jay Fresh, saying that Nicholas Hjalmarsson is the best defensive defenseman of his era, and he was 3 on the Hawks.
Yeah. Well,
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and it's it's guys that play that style that block every shot possible.
Yep.
That shot suppression and being able to defend the rush and all these things and puck transition, like all those fancy buzzwords. But those are the things that he did so well that don't always show up on the score sheet. And those are the kinds of players that like Chicago fans love Nicholas Hjalmarsson. You saw it last night coming back, just the absolute love that he had in this city, still has in this city. You saw it when he was traded.
Yeah.
It was just he was one of those players that doesn't get all the glory, but like definitely deserved to be on that platform. And
You can tell how beloved he is that there are people that are still outraged that Seth Jones is wearing his number 4.
right, yeah.
I mean, there's people that are like, how dare he? Like, well, it's not retired. I mean, technically, Hjalmarsson stole that number from Blackhawks legend Bobby Orr. So
That's true.
Yeah. And my favorite, my second favorite, number 4, Keith Kearney.
Keith Kearney, yeah, good stuff.
The Keith Kearney guy.
Yeah, so I mean, it's that was awesome to see him last night, and too, like, it was also Jonathan Toews returning from concussion protocol. They had the moment before the game with the 3 of them dropping the ceremonial puck. Like that was fun to see. So
And of course, you got your 2 big competitors, Keith and Taves. Can't just be a ceremonial puck drop.
It's got to be a real. It's got to be a real puck drop.
I was watching that and going, "Don't hit him in the head! Don't hit him in the head!"
They should have had Doc take it, and then Keith wins easily and
that
throws
was
it right back. I'm sorry, that was
was
unnecessary. That was a cheap shot.
That was an easy
That
one.
would've been
though.
too
That was a softball right down the middle.
Yeah.
It's all right. He's not Brendan Hagel. You can diss him.
But again,
We love Brendan.
we
Hagel.
love Brandon Hagel.
Full disclosure.
This is our podcast should be called the CHGO Blackhawks Podcast, aka Brendan Hagel Fan
Listen,
Club.
we love Brandon Hagel.
Yes, listen. Seriously.
Some other things, we saw the transition of last night of the Blackhawks kind of turning over with Duncan Keith coming back in an Oilers uniform, which is still a little bit weird to see. One thing that I think is something that has been on the minds of a lot of fans throughout this season has been the Blackhawks broadcast. We've seen some reports that the broadcast is obviously, we know it's changing with Pat Foley leaving the TV booth. There's been some reports that John Weideman's going to be changing his role, and it looks like some of the new talent that they've been auditioning is kind of coming to the forefront as where their new roles might be. So I guess what have you thought about this audition, this rotation of TV and radio broadcasts this year? Because I like we talked about it earlier. This should have been done in November. Like this should not have been an all season thing.
I think we're all going to have to realize that there's no more Pat Foley's. They just don't make them like that anymore.
Not at all.
And whoever they bring in is not going to be able to hold a candle to that guy. No. And it's tough, and it sucks, and it makes me think of when Connor Murphy got here for Nicholas Hjalmarsson. Immediate, nope, this guy is not Nicholas Hjalmarsson.
Right.
And when Alexei Zhamnov got here for Jeremy Roenick, I don't care how good he is.
You could even compare it to Colleton replacing Quinville. Anytime you replace a legend,
yes.
you're put in a position to fail.
Yeah. So please, I will just say to Hawks fans, be open-minded. Give whoever gets the job a chance. All I want to see, though, is this is the booth. Mm-hmm. It's this guy and this guy on TV, and it's this guy and not even guy. This person on TV, right. this person on radio, and just have it. The constant roller coaster, the constant who's going to be calling the game tonight, it's really hard for fans and you do this evaluation process. I've seen every game this year. I feel like I don't know any of them. There have been too many. They've not been consistently together enough. So it's Colby Cohen and it's Kaylee Chelios and it's all these people mixed and matched. You don't get to hear two people together for a long enough time to really draw any evaluation because chemistry matters.
Oh yeah, I mean, Pat Foley and Eddie Olczyk have probably some of the best chemistry of any local broadcast in the league.
Right,
and that took years to develop. You can't figure that out in a handful of games together.
Yeah, these broadcasts have been difficult to watch because you don't know who these people are. There is no chemistry, and they don't know the team they're broadcasting. They're not around. They're coming every couple of weeks. They're getting told what's happening.
They got to catch up.
It. Right.
Well,
and that's not their fault. They're in a bad spot. They're
Right.
doing the best they can, but it's made it difficult to watch some of these games because you just don't have that. Why this guy doesn't know what he's talking about? He just flew in this morning. What does he know about this team?
Well, and Scott Powers' piece about Foley from last week, Foley even says, it's hard for me to be in and out because it's different when you're in the course of an 82-game season. You're keeping up on everybody. He's got to catch up again after taking a break. That's a lot of work. That's difficult. So whoever it is, I want them to remain in their spot. And I just want to say out loud, I think Kaylee Chelios has been excellent. And I think they need to find a role for her on the broadcast permanently. Because I like her better calling the game than analyzing it in intermission. She does a great job during intermissions too, but I just think she sounds better while breaking down the game in real time. So that she gets my vote. I think she's been really, really good. She's got to probably work on her emphasis and stuff like that, but that comes. You got to get flight miles,
Right.
Behind the mic. And I think that her analysis has been as good as anybody. So I'm rooting for her. I would love to see her get a job, and it'd be a great move for the Hawks, a statement move to hire a woman and put her in that position. And she absolutely has earned it. It's not like, well, let's just hire a less qualified person because she's a woman. No, she's been as good as any of the analysts we've heard all year. So she's got my vote.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what's really interesting is that it seemed so easy to just say, okay, well, Pat Foley is leaving, John Weideman, put him from the radio booth to the TV booth, and now it seems like he's even getting edged out of the radio booth.
That to me is
bizarre.
bizarre.
So it's like, I definitely feel like there's a lot of good things going on with the team, but it seems like their broadcast is going to be one of the things that is kind of lagging behind in getting the fans excited and keeping them engaged, because you're bringing in, like you said, people who don't necessarily have a place with the team yet.
Yeah, and if you've got bringing in all these new young players, you're rebuilding. So, I mean, one thing that you could hang your hat on is, okay, it's the Blackhawks. I don't necessarily know these guys, but it's Pat Foley. It's John Weideman. I'll feel comfortable. Now you got new announcers telling you about all these new players you never heard of. It could be a little dicey there for a while.
The Weideman thing I don't get.
I don't get it at all.
I love John.
I do too. He's one of the best in the business.
He's a friend, and I think he's perfect for radio. Perfect for radio. And if the Hawks don't recognize that guy should be behind the mic every chance he gets on radio. And look, if they hire him to do the TV thing, I'm going to be thrilled for him.
Right.
Selfishly, I want him on radio because I just think he's so damn good at it. But if they're jerking him around and doing a part-time thing with John Weideman, maybe it's being a little bit overthought right now. Just have your broadcast teams. You're going to have people who are willing to do the social media stuff, the podcast stuff you want to do. Foley, no. Olczyk, no. Anybody else you hire from this pool is going to be game to do that stuff. So find your teams. Of course, you're going to have fill-ins now and again, but you need to have 90% of your games on TV and radio should be the same two people
Consistently.
in each broadcast.
Yeah.
That's how I feel anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, I would agree. You need to have that consistency, and that's going to make everything easier from, people listening on the radio, watching on TV, and make it easier to buy into because you have that familiar feeling with the team through the broadcast. So yeah, we'll have plenty of time to kind of hash that out as they figure that out. And I think the new era of the Blackhawks is going to be pretty exciting. New era of CHGO sports is pretty exciting. This will be a really good venture. I'm excited to get going with you guys and really bring this team into the the next generation.
Yep.
Looking forward to it. So that'll do it for the CHGO Blackhawks podcast. That has been Jay Zawaski. Enjoy Florida.
I will.
That'll be. This has been Greg Boysen. I'm Mario Tirabassi. We'll see you all next time.